You hear me? And well, I'm a scientist. I'm an Earth system scientist. But when I have been privileged to come into contact with the Save Our Soul campaign, Save Our Soul campaign, I just wanted to take this opportunity to share with you some of the latest scientific assessment of why I would even. Is it so that it's?
Take mine. Take mine.
Yeah. Sorry. Exactly. There we are. There we are. Why there's scientific support to potentially even consider changing the logo, that it's not only about saving our soil, it is that the soil saves us. And that is what the scientific evidence is increasingly showing. So we are in the midst of a climate crisis. We have an ecological crisis. We have a health crisis. And we have a war crisis, and they're all interacting. And the latest science shows that our only chance for a safe landing on the climate crisis is not only to phase out coal, oil, and natural gas, we also need to secure the health of the soils. And that this is now a precondition for our chance of having a livable future on Earth for all future generations. It's come to that point. In the latest IPCC assessment, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that came out just a few months back, the numbers are clear. 56% of our emissions of greenhouse gases are taken up by nature. Half on land, in soils, and the other half in ocean. What is this? Well, this is a proof that our planet is a biogeochemical, resilient machinery that is helping us humans for our future. It's basically providing us with the biggest subsidy to our lives. And what is it that takes up those 25% on land? Well, it's the soil. It is the ability, just as Sadhguru pointed out, of healthy soils having organic matter, soil moisture, rooting systems that provides life on Earth, the photosynthesis that makes all our species on Earth, including Homo sapiens, having any chance of a future. And it's now providing, since 150 years, this phenomenal capacity of just adding more buffering. It is dampening the enormous debt that we've caused and threat that we've caused on planet Earth. How are we doing then to take care of nature, to continue having this service? Well, we're doing really bad. We're doing so bad, so the latest science shows that the richest terrestrial ecosystem on Earth, the Amazon rainforest, has just tipped over from being a carbon sink, taking up carbon in the soils, to now being a carbon source. This is nothing but a nightmare finding. We have more and more scientific evidence that we now need to halt all forms of expansion of agriculture because soil that we now manage to produce food for infrastructure, for cities, is a major emitter of greenhouse gases. In fact, it's the single largest emitter of greenhouse gases. So the only reason that soil is helping us is the intact nature. So we are doing really bad job on the soil that we're managing to produce food primarily, but also for grazing lands. And we have our last chance is really to safeguard intact nature, but also, of course, doing what you, Sadhguru, are such a strong ambassador for, to become clever stewards of the soil that we manage, to have good food for humans, but also to invest in management practices that builds carbon, that builds more moisture in the soils, that gives us more healthy food production. And the good news is we know how to do it. It's just amazing that we're not investing in the biggest opportunity we have, namely to restore health of soils. So the soil is today on a pathway towards undermining livability on Earth, but it's also potentially the biggest opportunity we have to shift the dial and move in the right direction. So I really applaud you in this not only saving soil, but the Soil Save Us campaign.
Krishna, if you want to take any questions from
people?
We'll just continue with questions. I'll take the dancing lady back there. Somehow I always see the ones with the big movements. Can we get a microphone to her with the sign? Look at her, she's doing such a good job.
You can't ignore her.
Oh. Test, test. Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Susan. My confession is I'm from Germany and also India. So my question is, if we together can have a global rule or implement a global rule, what does it contain? What would you put into that global law or rule?
Let the professor answer it from the scientific perspective, but what I would say is, because different pieces of geography are held by different nations, a global law is not going to work. A global recommendation is possible, but a law is not possible because law-making prerogative is not with any global body as such. It is individual nations, maybe with EU, it is a region which can form those laws. In Commonwealth, we are trying to form laws through Commonwealth nations, which are 54 in number. But global law is not there. Global consensus towards the right kind of laws can be made. Right now, we prepared the soil document based on latitudinal position, economic conditions, agricultural traditions, and soil types which are present there. These aspects are very important to make any law. You can't just make one prescription for everybody because it may not be implementable in many parts of the world, either because of economic conditions or agricultural traditions being in a certain way, or soil types, many different kind of treatment. So, there is no global law. Global consensus we can arrive at. Minimum 3 to 6% organic content should be there. How is individual nations should work out according to their realities, this is my opinion. Please, sir.
Well, we're talking soils here tonight. To give you one support to Sadhguru's principle, all soil in the world should have at least 3% organic carbon. That is what gives life, it gives carbon sequestration, it gives moisture, it gives good food production. An average African soil has 0.3%. It's been degraded to a point which explains why we have on average 1 ton per hectare on food crops, on millet, sorghum, maize, across most parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Can you imagine if you would go from 0.3 to 3%? In Africa, you would help the climate, you would help African development, you would secure food health, you would get rid of malnutrition, and you would move towards a positive development. Ukraine has the world's richest soil. The famous black cotton soils in Ukraine, the breadbasket of large parts of the world. 85% of the grain imported to Egypt at the moment of the Arab Spring came from Ukraine and Russia. You may know that when the people took to the streets in Ukraine during the Arab Spring, the slogan was bread, freedom, dignity. Bread, freedom, dignity. Because the food prices had gone skyrocketing. Why? Because of forest fires that put a ban on exports on grain from Russia and Ukraine, and droughts in Australia, attributed to climate change caused by us humans. Soil and food causing and triggering instability, which gave the rise to the Arab Spring. Soils is the core of that principle. So I would say that is really one of the key principles. But the second one, dear friends, is that we're actually at risk of destabilizing the whole planet. And what is it that regulates the health of the planet? Well, it is the planetary boundaries. The planetary boundaries is not only climate, It's the soils, it's biodiversity, it's fresh water, it's nitrogen, it's phosphorus, it's air pollutants, and it's chemicals. We need to keep all these within safe boundaries. We call that the safe operating space for humanity. Science now provides safe quantities for all of these boundaries. So I redefine sustainable development and human dignity in the following way: prosperity and equity within planetary boundaries. That is, to me, the rule for humanity in the future.
Okay, last question. Now everyone got a poster and is dancing. Very smart, you guys. Okay, I'll go with the very tall standing lady over there. Yeah, you. Just stay standing so they find you.
Hi everyone. My name is Veronica. I come from, born in Russia, lived in Slovenia. My question to you was, we here now talk about the government and the population, I mean the civilians, but businesses play also a huge role in this circle. And my question would be, what is right now the agenda of circular economy and the future of how businesses impact the change itself, including soil, of course? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that really important question, and I can start, and then I'm sure Sadhguru has very important reflections here as well. I would like to say that in general, unfortunately, businesses have not understood to be stewards of soils, unfortunately. They've come a long way on climate, and climate is translated to carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is translated only to oil, coal, and natural gas. And we should actually, in a way, almost celebrate that companies, businesses have come a long way to understand that circular economic business models to phase out fossil fuels is really happening. And Germany is actually a country that is really committed to land a net zero German welfare economy by 2045, and I applaud Germany for that, and I think Germany will succeed. But the problem is that we haven't recognized that it's equally important to do the same thing on soils. And we need to have that part integrated into all business as well. And you have a little handful of companies doing it, and I won't list them here, but there are a few important food companies that are starting to recognize that they need to have circular economic models, both for fresh water, for soil, and for biodiversity. But there are so few. This is why your leadership, Sadhguru, and this campaign is so important. Because again, the only safe landing we have is to get the soils on board.
Say, I would like to treat businesses, because many businesses have become almost as large as nations. They're like small nations by themselves. Corporates have become that large. So a business institution or a company is also like an individual. They can make a difference, their footprint is way bigger than an individual person, but still, how much a person is willing to do consciously? If every one of us consciously dealt with this, it would have been a different affair, but that's not happened. So now expecting businesses to turn around by themselves is not the way. I feel policy is very important, because a business which works within the policy framework, we must let them be, whatever they're doing. Otherwise, if you are a law-abiding citizen, nobody should mess with you in this country, that's how it should be. No, you're a law-abiding citizen, but I don't like what you're doing. This should not come up, this will lead to anarchy, you know. You're going by the law, within the framework of the law, you're doing whatever you want to do, but I don't like it. So I will try to enforce things on you. This is not a good society, this will lead to chaos. So the same goes for businesses. People are always telling me, Sadhguru, you are supporting fertilizer company. I say, see, is it legal? If it's legal, I won't touch it. If it's illegal, if they're doing something beyond the law of the nation, then we will talk about it. If they're within the framework of the law, we must talk to the lawmakers, if the law itself is wrong, to change the framework of the law, rather than people who are playing within that field, accusing them of something and expecting them to be sages and saints. No, businesses are there to make profit. They must make profit because all the investors are demanding profit. Will you invest in a company? You can give as much advice as you want. Will you invest in a company which does great things but doesn't make profit? No, isn't it? So leave it at that. Business is a business house, it is supposed to make profit, but within the framework of law. If the framework of law is loose and allowing the business to cause damage, then you must address the law, not the business. So but at the same time, I've been talking to business leaders for last 25 years, non-stop in various conferences across the world. What I see is there is a phenomenal shift in the way business leaders are thinking. I've personally, worked with a few of them and they have quietly changed their businesses in such a way that it is far more eco-friendly than what it was 20, 30 years ago. And many businesses are doing that by choice. That is great, we appreciate them, but still that's not the way to do it. The policy should make sure whatever business you run is beneficial to everybody. That is the business of the policymakers. It is very important policymakers should plug all those holes which allows business to exploit that. Because within the framework of the policy, business is supposed to play a smarter game than its competition. If you don't allow them that, if both of us are running a business, if I tell her, you must be good and I will make profit, this is not going to work, all right? Both of us are striving to make profit. Only if we break the framework of law, then there is a penalty for that. Within the framework of law, we are making money, that should not be a problem. The moment you question that, you are questioning the fundamental framework of the world's economy itself. Don't do that, because that will lead to a much greater problem. Whenever something is inconvenient, you start throwing stones at somebody. This is not a good thing to do, this is a complete no-no. If you think a particular law is allowing businesses to do unjust things upon people or damaging, let us not even use the word unjust, damaging things to the world, we must tend to the law, fix the law in such a way that such activity cannot happen. As a part of this, now I'm addressing in the COP15 by UNCCD. This is a professor should know the aspects behind this. See, climate change and global warming and this carbon fuels, this fossil fuel burning, this gets 97% of the attention and the budget. Only 3% goes towards soil. So COP15, COP26 you heard all over the place. COP15 is happening. I participated in COP14 and now it's COP15 in Ivory Coast. During this journey, I'm taking a two-day break and going to Ivory Coast and I'm addressing 170 nations. We are quite certain, because UNCCD is a strong partner, plus the other UN agencies, we are quite certain some kind of policy agreement will happen towards soil, because what we are offering or what we are asking for is so simplistic, nobody can say no to it. What I'm saying is, this is all. 3 to 6% organic content should be there in the soil. Does anybody, a scientist, a politician, a businessman, a farmer, anybody, do they disagree with this? No. Everybody agrees. How? Well, there are arguments. How to do it? Well, let's debate the how. But first, let us agree, within the next 8 to 10 years' time, all agricultural soils on the planet must have 3 to 6% organic content. How you do it in each country, according to what is available there, their economic capabilities, soil conditions, people's will to do it, all this will decide how and how will also decide how long does it take. I feel well-to-do nations should be able to do it in 6 to 8 years comfortably. Poorer nations should be able to do it in 15 years. Very poor nations who have no means at all should be able to do it in 20 years' time. It's very much possible this plan can be drawn up. If this plan is drawn up, execution will happen at different paces in different nations, but the world should start moving towards 3 to 6% organic content. As Professor said, 0.3% in Africa, less than 0.5% in 62% of India's lands, okay? With 1.3 billion population, what is our plan if we go like this? So this is a global issue, this is not an individual nation's issue. So it has to be addressed globally by intention. By consensus, we must arrive at the intention. This minimum must happen everywhere. How? Let each nation arrive at it by themselves, because we cannot dictate how somebody should do their agriculture. There are many aspects attached to it.
And while I'm at it, just to share with you the power of what Sadhguru just said. So soils, even if we've mismanaged them, contains 3 times more carbon just in the first 1 meter than the atmosphere. So the atmosphere we've loaded with so much carbon that we have caused 1.2 degrees Celsius warming, the warmest temperature on Earth since we left the last ice age, and we see the impacts with major increase in extreme events that is hitting economies everywhere in the world and humans everywhere. But the soils are so powerful that they have 3 times more carbon, despite the fact that we've mismanaged them. If we would go down the route that Sadhguru suggests, we would pick out roughly 1 billion tons of carbon per year, and we globally emit 9. So more than 10% of the solution would be provided by managing the soils. And we win through better productivity of the soil for food. So it's not a small thing. I mean, this is going from 0.3 to 3 is a big item.
Now already people have been on the chair, you need to go higher. Yeah, please.
Sadhguru, I have a wonderful young lady, she is 6 years old, from Poland, and she has a very nice present for you. This is Susie, and this is Sadhguru.
What did it say? This is the name, is it? What's her name? Watch it. Susie.
Save soil, and in Polish, Rachumi Glebe. Is it right? Ich schau zur Mama da vorne. Okay.
There we go.
Rachumi Glebe. Anna, thank you. So Susie, it's a big honor. Thank you so much. Now we have a new friend.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Susie, this is your applause. Das ist dein ganz großer Applaus. Everybody's clapping their hands for you. Susie, thank you. Okay. I will bring you back. Sadhguru, Tony, Professor Rockström, thank you a lot for a wonderful impact. I am deeply impressed. I said it as before. I think we are all really deeply impressed after a fantastic 2 hours night here in Berlin. And the main thing for me, I will bring it back home with a sentence. Ich nehme es mit nach Hause, und ich glaube, das tun hoffentlich alle von euch, von uns genauso. Es beginnt in uns. It starts in ourselves. And I think this is one of the most important things we have to mention. We have to think every day about that fact. Dankeschön, dass ihr da seid. Vielen, vielen Dank für die brillante Energie. Bleibt noch einen Moment, denn wir haben einen Song und gemeinsam mit euch wollen wir gerne diesen Song feiern. We have a song. Let's celebrate the song Save Soil all together. Vielleicht aufstehen wäre schön, die Plakate dazu und dann zum Schluss gemeinsam hier dieses Bild. Auch Sadhguru hat das entsprechende Bild. Professor Rockström muss gerade gehen. Thank you so much. Dankeschön. Die nächsten Termine warten. Tony, brilliant job. Thank you a lot.
There is a soil anthem that all of you...
And here's the soil anthem now. With our band, we have this one. Everybody of us. Und vielleicht noch das Allerwichtigste. Liebe Leute, macht jetzt von diesem Moment ein Foto, postet es bei Social Media. Und hier sind die Bilder dazu, damit wir die Botschaft weiter hinaustragen in die Welt. Save soil!
Everybody is just soil body.
La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. You must do this now. You must do the jig.
The magic of soil turns death into life. Depleted soils will not quench the fire of hunger. Unquenched hunger can burn the very world. This is a generational responsibility. Save soil. Let's make it happen.
Soil man. The next 100 days, next 100 days, every day, at least 10 to 15 minutes, dedicate your time to enhance the message. As you promised these 1200 people, just yourself, without other cities, you must touch 3 to 4 billion people. Hello? These phones, these instruments that you have in your hand, these are not just taking shots of your own mug, okay, all right? These are powerful instruments. If you use it right, you can change the world. This is the first time that such an opportunity is there with humanity. Just, let's say, 50 years ago or even 25 years ago, we could never talk to the world. This is the first time. Many great beings have come, but when they spoke, hardly 10 people heard. This is the first time every one of us can speak to the world. When we have this means, when we have these technologies, and when we have the capability, if we don't do something that is so significant for us and for future generations, it shows that we just don't care enough. That's what it means. In our lives, if we do not do what we cannot do, there is no issue. But in our lives, if we do not do what we can do, we are a disaster. Are we a disaster? No! To save soil, let's make it happen. Thanks to Tony, Professor, and our… What? Matthias. Thanks to all of them for being here. Wonderful to have you.